Hail, hail to the victors, hail to the conquering heroes. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes, and this is our talk series. We've got ourselves a State of the Galaxy, and it is an impactful one. So instead of waiting a day or two like we do sometimes, we are staying up late on a school night to give our thoughts on it. Here's how we're going to tackle the State of the Galaxy. Anybody coming to this channel is already going to be well versed on the content there, so we're not going to be reading through it or anything. We're going to shift straight into the deeper analysis and reactions that I have based on what I'm seeing here. So we're going to start with the macro overview of my feelings of the State of the Galaxy, shift into the unintended consequences that I'm thinking about, look at the impacts on newer and smaller accounts and how I think some farming should be done based on this news, look at some of the unknowns that I'm still wondering about, wrap up with a couple small details, and then we're going to do some quick hits on other things that are happening within the SWGOH universe. No free-to-play gearing this week. I haven't touched my account since, or at least with gearing, haven't touched my account since the end of last Grand Arena, and I have not geared up Kyle, Katarn, or Dash yet. I've been waiting to do a video on those guys before I do some gearing there. But before we get started, over on the Discord, Darth Revan, one of the community members, put together this meme, and it very accurately captured my feelings when I joined the Discord today, because I was absentee for several hours after that forum post hit. I was busy with work, busy with family, and when I came in, this was what it was like, where I had no idea what was going on, didn't know what was the consequences of that post and how people were feeling about it. So thanks to Darth Revan for throwing that together. I got a good laugh out of it. The macro overview. When news like this drops, I don't want to look at this solely from how I feel about it. I think it's important to look at this from a community perspective, because there's good and bad here, and I think that's pretty apparent. Because for me personally, I think this is an improvement. I never really cared about Squad Arena. That's something I've harped on a lot on this channel. Eliminating Squad Arena for my daily concerns is a plus, and I'm hoping as a part of this, CG eliminates one of those battles from our dailies so I can just get through dailies faster. Because without crystals, I don't see any reason for forcing us to do two battles. They've really downplaying the import there. But I do want to put myself into the heads of players who like Squad Arena, and there are a lot of them. And there's a lot of players who don't like Grand Arena and don't want to engage with it. Or at the very least, they don't care about it or don't have the time for it. Because Grand Arena is a very time-consuming game mode. And with the old system that we're leaving behind, one of the big positives is it allowed players to play to their preferences. There was room for a player like me to just focus on Grand Arena and ignore Squad Arena for the most part. Like I finished top 25 to 100 depending on the meta. Or it allowed other players who maybe were busier or just didn't care about Grand Arena. We see them with the Jar Jar battles. Lots of people don't participate in the game mode. It allows those people to just focus on Squad Arena or Territory Wars or wherever else they want to focus on. This change, though, means that the aperture that people view how they participate in this game with has just gotten drastically more narrow. Where now this game has shifted its focus to Grand Arena pretty heavily because of this. You now can't afford to ignore Grand Arena. And that is a major change, and I'm very concerned about what the impacts of that could represent. I think anybody watching this channel, this is going to be a net positive for you. Grand Arena is one of the focuses here. A lot of my advice is tailored towards Grand Arena and that kind of roster advice. And we were in need of these changes. Like, I've already outgrown the last round of changes to Grand Arena. Like, I'm about to hit 7 million GP as a free-to-play player, and I was very concerned that we were going to deal with like another 6 to 8 months before we saw a shuffle to the Grand Arena divisions and get that recalibration. And to see that we're instead getting an overhaul of the game mode, I think is very good. To be eliminating those Jar Jar matches, which are on this channel, is just how I refer to the auto deploy matches. Or I've got those Tartakovsky matches where those are just such massive mismatches where I just stomp over an opponent and it's kind of boring. To now be in a place where Grand Arena feels like it could be reinvigorated and very competitive, I think is great. Like, I don't care if I'm going to lose a bunch more because I'm going to have a lot more fun doing it. And Grand Arena has been getting fairly stale as it has matured as a game mode. And to see that, okay, now I need to think about it a lot more. I need to strategize a lot more. And a lot of those bad habits I've learned, and you guys have seen those bad habits. It's those bad habits I'm going to need to shift my way out of a lot sooner than I otherwise would have in the old setup. And even though I think overall this is good for me, good for players like us, I do see the negative things here. There's going to be a massive reduction in crystals for newer and younger accounts. Players who don't care about Grand Arena are now forced to engage with a game mode that they don't care about. There's a lot of spenders who don't care about Grand Arena, who help support this game, who Squad Arena is their favorite game mode, and they've just seen that nullified. I'm not convinced that these changes we're going to see here are going to fix everything in matchmaking, where I think it's possible that, maybe matchmaking ends up hurting me, but it's also possible that matchmaking still hurts players who have bloated rosters. Like, that's something that we're going to need to be watching out for. And we're going to shift to these unintended consequences now, but I think one of the big unintended consequences of this that is not being effectively considered by CG is there's a ton of burnout going on in the community right now. And maybe this helps address and lighten that, but it puts a ton of pressure into the game that didn't exist. It forces players to put in a lot more time than they did. And after this long period of conquest that we've just had, where even I have been feeling burnt out, like the last 10 days or so, I've signed in once. I've missed my arena payouts. I've missed my energy refreshes. I just wanted to take the time away. We've seen 2 long-time YouTubers retire from the game over the past week. Grand Arena has been taking way more time because of all the additional teams that have been put on defense. Like, burnout is a problem, and that is one of those unintended consequences I don't think CG's effectively considering here. One of the big ongoing issues that we've been seeing throughout Squad Arena, throughout Grand Arena, has been CG not responding to and addressing the concerns about cheating. There's a lot of reporting that goes on. Players on Reddit have been showing the evidence of CG not reacting to this, and what we're going to see here with this shift of crystals over to Grand Arena is, I think what is going to happen is cheating will increase and the reporting of cheating will go down. Because at least when you had these arena shards, you could get a group of people to report cheaters, and now things are going to rely on the individual person reporting on individual instances as they review their account. And that requires a lot more effort from a even smaller portion of the player base, because not everybody checks their Grand Arena histories that players like I do, or I assume a lot of the players who watch this channel probably do. Earlier in the video, we talked about how newer and smaller accounts are going to have drastically reduced crystal income as a consequence of these State of the Galaxy Grand Arena changes. And I think that is probably the intent of what CG wants, because one of the things that our new account series was able to demonstrate was how quickly accounts can be developed now. And we didn't go for a gearing strategy, going for relics or certain characters and gearing them up highly very quickly. What we did was develop a very wide and broad roster that was able to take advantage of assault battles and events as quickly as possible. We went after journey characters very quickly. We didn't worry about getting characters to high level or high gear. We were going for unlocks. We wanted unlocks quickly and cheaply so that we could move on to next teams and keep upgrading the quality of our squads quickly so that we could then reinvest those characters into maximizing our resource income. That's what our entire approach was. And you can see that in that new account week by week series. But one of the things that we'll be doing over the coming weeks is show some of those lessons. I need to put out a farming guide about how I approach that, because watching each of those videos, it's too much work to garner that information through that process. But we will wrap up this first year of that new account. I will be putting out a video hopefully this coming week about how that account looks at the 1 year point, which was this past week. There's a few things that are not completely fleshed out with this State of the Galaxy. Hopefully some of that will be addressed in the Q&A that's supposed to happen later in the week. There's a big assumption I think CG is making that the changes they are making to Grand Arena are actually going to encourage more people to engage with Grand Arena. I think that's a big unknown. I'm not convinced that just because CG is making Grand Arena more important, more players are going to engage with it. You've seen with Conquest how quickly players dropped off of engaging with it because of how much time it takes, even though it's directly tied to really high quality characters. I think we're going to see a similar thing with Grand Arena, where players do not have the time to engage with the game mode, even if crystals are going to be tied to it. And players like me who have a mature account, I basically punted crystals for the past 10 days on my main account because I just signed in once a day. I didn't do my arena climbs. I was satisfied with the amount of crystals that I had, and that might be something that is going to become more incentivized because players aren't going to be able to justify that amount of time to put into the game. The other big unknown for me is the skill rating matchmaking, how that is going to work. That's kind of yada yada yada. I think what is being implied is that it's just going to be a win-loss matchmaking algorithm. I kind of hope that it's not that simple. I would like it to take into account roster quality. I don't think CG is going to do that, but I'm going to be looking out a lot more for how they plan on doing that, because I don't think it's completely worked yet with Territory Wars, but that might be a function of just there hasn't been enough cycles that have gone through Territory Wars. Maybe Grand Arena cycles are going to happen a little bit more quickly. That's one of the things I'm looking at. There are some smaller details here that we can quickly scroll through this. This graphic here, I think, is very helpful in clarifying what is going to be going on. I'm not going to break it down for you. You have these little divisions here, and then you have your leagues. And based on, you go lower in here, based on where your GP lines up approximately, like I think it's this one, you have like your starting league. So players will jump into a league and then can climb up. Starting within the division, you need to be in Division 1 to move into the next league after a week period. And that's what's being shown in this diagram. Because reading through this was a mess. Looking through this graphic, it's a lot clearer. Scoring changes, I don't care. It's this, the first attack, I guess. I don't think these are making big differences in any event. The reward changes, this is the biggest thing. The change in crystals, some people have done the math. It seems like you can go 50% if you're in the Kyber League and be doing about the same in crystals. So it all seems fine. I'm taking a wait and see approach when it comes to that information. The other thing is feats have been removed from, at least in terms of how you're finishing in terms of divisions and leagues, feats impact has been removed. They do allude to feats somewhere in here. I'm not going to look for it. Here it is. That feats no longer are tied to banners, but they are going to have a use for feats somehow, but they don't really address it. So that's one thing I'm looking at. It's a small thing. I don't really like feats. What feats did, though, was for players who were willing to put in the extra effort, they got an advantage, and it gave you a lot more wiggle room for finishing in Kyber. Those things were nice. I don't know. They're not things that are strong enough that I care that things have changed. Like, I'm fine to not lose matches anymore because, or not even lose matches, lose battles because I went after a dumb feat, which happened often. We're going to wrap up with some quick hits touching upon things that have been happening within the SWGOH community and universe over the past 10 days that I haven't addressed, instead of doing what we usually do, which is the free-to-play gearing of my roster, because I haven't been doing any gearing over the past 10 or so days. First thing is, over on Reality Skewed Gamers channel, they have an interview with the developers, and they announced the next Legacy tier character in Darth Talon. I haven't watched the video yet, so not too much for me to address there, but it does tie into some of the other rumors going on with Ravager, the Ravager from Nihilus, my own long-time concerns with the Sith Assassin. I've been convinced that I need to gear Sith Assassin up, and this seems to accelerate that timetable. We have another high-quality Sith, or likely high-quality Sith. We have the rumors with the Ravager. Sith Assassin might not be relevant to the squad, but I do think the ship is going to be relevant, and that is something that we should be staying ahead on. Now, I didn't exactly anticipate all these legacy tier things occurring, but what I did speculate, what we're going to start doing is that each quarter we're going to do a quarterly speculation, and we just started that this current quarter, and I did not anticipate this, all these Legends universe exploration. But what I did speculate on was this period that we are in right now, before Book of Boba Fett, is the only opportunity CG is really going to have for the foreseeable future to return to content that CG has overlooked, or what I didn't think was going to happen, go completely outside of it and hit the Legends and add that to the game. Because what's going to happen as soon as Book of Boba Fett is released is we are going to have Cassian, we're going to have Bad Batch, we're going to have Obi-Wan. There's going to be so much happening on Disney Plus for CG to respond to that I don't think there's going to be a lot of time to do much else. So this was a small window for CG to do other things, and they did Legends, and I think that's great. Like, I like seeing these characters in game. With that, there's Dash Rendar and Kyle Katarn. There's every arrow pointing towards that Mara Jade is going to be the final one released. What we also have are Omicrons in game. I am saving all of my Omicrons for Grand Arena focused abilities. So Dash Rendar is definitely getting his. Kyle Katarn, you can hold off on that one, because if you're free to play, you are not going to have a 7-star Kyle Katarn for a long time. So who cares about that Omicron ability? Territory battles, that's up to you. If that's a game mode you care about, like I engage with it, I like it, but it's not my biggest priority. Like they're good abilities, but I am favoring all of my Omicrons towards Grand Arena, especially now. Like, I'm saying, I had this thought a week ago before this video exists. Your first Omicron should be Grand Arena now, because Grand Arena has become just so much more important. You can't afford to put Omicrons on other abilities until you take care of those Grand Arena Omicrons. That's my take. Last thing is the ongoing issue of the audio bug that's been driving me crazy for... Is it 6 months now? One of the things that happened over the past 10 days that I have not addressed is I was downloading other games so I could lay in bed and listen to a podcast and play a game, because I can't do that with Galaxy of Heroes. I've been playing just dumb games so far. I almost downloaded Marvel Strike Force, and I considered downloading Raid Shadow Legends. Like, that's the point to which CG has gotten me with not addressing this bug. Like, it is a major bug to not allow players to listen. Not allow, but to have a bug that prevents players from listening to outside audio. I think it's Android specific, but a large amount of the player base cannot listen to external audio and play the game. And it's one of the big reasons why my engagement in the game has plummeted, because I listen to podcasts all the time. I listen to way too many podcasts, to the point where I think it's legitimately affecting my ability to focus on things. That's how often I am listening to podcasts. And I bring it up all to say that I'm going to listen to a podcast over playing Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. And that's what we're seeing here, where I'm considering playing Raid Shadow Legends. Fix your game. Alright, that's going to wrap up this video. I think this turned into a long one. I was hoping it was going to be a short one. We didn't have any long free-to-play gearing to tack on it at the end. We were only talking about one real topic. I guess we got into the meat of it, but this was a longer one. Do keep an eye out, though, over the next week. We will have the new account season finale, at least. I'm going to keep the account, but we are going to show and where that account has ended up after 1 year of play, how I approached it, and then over the next several weeks throughout to the end of the year, there's some things I want to be doing. One of the things that we did last year is we just did a year-end review of the game. That's going to be a regular of this channel. We did it last year. We'll do it this year as well. So thank you again for watching. Be safe out there, everyone, and be excellent to each other. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.